there everyone, this is Sandy Franco, Director of Media Relations at Wrestling Prep. We are ending week 6 here with a couple of questions for Carolyn Wester. We've been interviewing kids all week long, and these are probably the most asked questions. We're going to start off with Chrissy D.
Hi, I'm Chris Deloza from Clovis, California, and I was just wondering, I've always wondered this, how did you get involved in wrestling?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think for the first part, initially I got involved in wrestling because my high school sweetheart wrestled. He went to St. Stephen's in Virginia, and he was a really good wrestler. And I loved wrestling from the get-go. And then on top of it, my cousins, Donnie and Sammy Smith, who also lived in the Great Falls, were a good wrestler. In particular, my cousin Donnie, he was a Virginia State champ. And I think Sam wanted to be, but he probably wasn't. But for me, the way I got involved in wrestling was that I always admired the tenacity it takes to be a wrestler, but also the no bias for gender or genetics. So when I stopped working, both my parents had died and I had gotten divorced, I was looking for something to do, and through a series of events having to do with one of my father's friends, I ended up being friends with some people at Stanford in the administration, and they asked me to come to work at Stanford. I think they originally thought that I'd be a good fit for something in finance, but I was interested. Michael had been going to Camp Greenbrier in West Virginia, and he had started wrestling a little bit. And when I went over there, his counselor was actually the wrestling coach, and I looked at him and I said, "Oh, you must weigh about 148 and be a 133 pounder." And I was shocked that I even remembered anything about wrestling. So when somebody at Stanford explained to me about their wrestling program, back when Coach Buddy was the coach, they said, "Would you be interested in coming and helping?" And I said, "Oh, Michael's the right age to think about wrestling." And I went over to Stanford. And right after I got there, Kerry McCoy became the head coach, and he brought C.C. Fisher in from the Olympic Training Center. And what I learned from C.C. was he was going to work hard to make any kid better. He didn't care if they were good or not good. He just cared if they worked hard. So he said to me, "Hey, Carolyn, we have all these kids that can go to college, but they don't know what to do. Can you help them get ready to go to college?" He said, "I'll call the coaches if you help with the testing and the essays." And so we started doing that whole process. Aaron Palacios was the first kid we ever did, and who went to, what's it called? University of Pennsylvania. No, what is the name of the school? Anyway, it's in Iowa. Aaron went there and graduated from there. And then over time, as the club got bigger, CC said to me, "You need to help me coach." And so at that time, it was Jason Welch, Hunter Collins, Nico Trigus, some other kids from around the Aaron Palacios and some other kids. And as I started, CC would go back to train at the Olympic Training Center, and I would have to explain to them, like, "Hey, why didn't you do what CC said?" And what I realized over time was they couldn't necessarily do what CC did. And so then I started coaching more and started breaking it down. And then from there, you know, people kept coming up to me and asking me to do turnaround for venture capital, to go back to what I'd done before. But I was really happy helping everybody, and I got along with everybody, and that's how it started. It turned from something small to the first time after I left Stanford's club and went to another practice for Steve Gotcha, at Santa Clara. Like 85, 90 kids showed up. And then from there, it just kept going from one room to the other, and Jason and Hunter and Nico, everywhere I went was having practice, they came. And Jason asked me to travel with him between his, I think he says his sophomore and junior year, and then we were on go. So that's basically how you got stuck with us.
Okay, next we have Carson Manville.
My name is Carson Manville from Warren, Virginia, and I was wondering, why did you choose coaching instead of using one of your 5 degrees?
Well, that's a good question, Carson. Carson and I actually have a little bit of history together from my cousin I mentioned, Sam Smith. I hadn't seen my cousin in a long time, and Blake Castle and Dominic Castle were at Jeff Jordan's, and Dominic came back and said, "There was a man there coaching from Northern Virginia who looks just like the picture of your father." And it turned out it was my cousin. And then Carson and his older brother, I think, sort of started when your dad was first having you all wrestled with Sam too. Is that right? With Sammy, so we've kind of known each other a long time. Hey, I think for me, it goes back to the way I was raised. My parents were national politicians from my home state.